Beyond the Echo Cavern by BreAnna Teschendorf, Chapter 6, Impossible, Unpassable. Gabe did get there first, but as it happened, there was nowhere. He ran past Charlie so quickly and right into the darkness of the cave that he suddenly stopped, a little afraid about being so far ahead of the other two, and in darkness with lights of an unknown source dancing before him. He might have turned back in panic. His heart was beating fast. But then he remembered that he still had the flashlight and switched it on. It was a good thing that he stopped, because 2 feet in front of him was a solid rock wall. He might have run straight into it. Charlie was only a few seconds behind him and appeared by his side muttering. He walked up to the wall of the cave and laid his hands upon it. The rock wall was surprisingly warm and a little bit damp. It went up about 10 feet, just too high to climb over, and then stopped. The ceiling of the cave was about 13 feet high, and they could see the lights reflecting off the cave ceiling behind the wall from farther back. The river still ran down the right side of the cave, but it came from under the wall. While it might have been possible to swim under the wall, it wasn't something the children really wanted to do, with all their clothes on and in that dark cave. Plus, they knew it would ruin their flashlight. "Aw, rats! I wanted to see the bioluminescence," Charlie finally said, after he had considered several ways to climb over the wall and rejected each one. "What exactly is bioluminescence, Charlie?" asked Annika, who had now also arrived beside the wall. Charlie was pleased that Annika had asked him this question. "Well, Annika, it is when an organism that is alive—" "What is an organism, Charlie?" asked Gabe, with a flashlight shining upon his face, making it look all funny and shadowy. It's a creature, I guess, made up of cells." "Huh?" Gabe interjected, now sticking out his tongue and shining the flashlight on it. "It is when a living creature makes light," Charlie finished, ignoring Gabe. "Like fireflies, you know. I read about it in a book. They have a pigment in them, like a paint, that reacts with oxygen to create light. In some kinds of very special caves, there are mushrooms and even worms that make light." "Charlie," Annika protested, "those lights are moving, almost dancing, and there are so many." "Well, maybe it's an undiscovered species. Maybe the wind makes it move," Charlie explained, with his usual logic. Annika wished that he would turn back into the Charlie who had believed in a talking snake 30 minutes ago. Just then the wind died down a bit, and the humming of the harp on the roof quit with it. It was then, for the first time, that they heard the sound of a drum. "Can bioluminescence do that?" Annika breathed faintly. It was no longer cold in the cave, but her arms broke out with fresh goosebumps. No," whispered Charlie. The 3 children instinctively moved closer together. Charlie reached out and took the flashlight from Gabe and shined it all over the wall. "I think I want to go home now, Annika," Gabe whispered. "Maybe we should," she agreed, reaching for his arm. All 3 children felt that maybe there had been enough excitement for one day. They began to edge slowly backwards without even talking about it. "Okay," agreed Charlie. "Let's go back now. My mom might be worried about me. We can come back another day with 3 flashlights and some rubber boots too. Maybe go in the water and maybe my brother Joe will come with us." The last part came out in an impossible squeak. "Stop!" Annika suddenly urged them. "What?" Gabe reacted loudly in a real panic, thinking someone had grabbed her in the dark. When he yelled, the drum suddenly stopped. The children all grabbed each other's hands instinctively. "Oh my gosh," Annika whispered. They heard us. Oh my gosh. Be quiet. We have to get out of here. There could be anyone back there, the snake said. And there is a door. A door, she said. When she had said, "Stop," she had meant that Charlie should stop moving the flashlight. She now grabbed it from him and pointed it directly at the spot in the rock where she had seen the door. Sure enough, carved into the rock wall, very faintly, was a door. It was perfectly even with the rest of the rock wall. It was no wonder the children had not noticed it right away. Suddenly, struck with the realization that someone on the other side of the door might be able to open it and come out, the children were filled with horror and turned to run. Annika had the flashlight in her hand, but she didn't point it anywhere in particular, and it moved up and down as she ran at full speed. The children ran as fast and hard as they could. The cave started getting darker. In fact, the darkness in front of them seemed even thicker than the darkness behind them. Annika looked up as she ran and noticed the strings of the ceiling harp overhead and thought to herself that they must be nearing the bend in the cave and would break into the light and see the end not far after that. To her surprise, even as she rounded the bend, the darkness was still all around them. "What happened?" panted Charlie. "We must have taken a wrong turn." He suddenly stopped running. Annika did not want to stop, and so she merely slowed down. "There were no turns. Maybe it is later than we think and already dark outside." Just at that moment, she ran straight into another rock wall. "Ow!" she cried. "Annika!" Gabe shouted and ran over to her and helped her up. "Shh," said Charlie, and at once they were all three very still. It was pitch black all around them, except for a tiny speck of light where the flashlight shone on the wall Annika had run into. They could hear nothing at all except the sound of the river flowing softly beside them and the indistinct humming of the strings overhead. "What is it, Charlie?" Annika asked after a minute. "Nothing," said Charlie. "I mean, no one is following us. We are alone here. We can stop running. We have obviously taken a wrong turn somewhere. We need to go back more slowly and find our way out. We need to calm down. I think our imagination is playing tricks on us. If we stay calm and think clearly, we will have a better chance of getting out of here." "What tricks, Charlie?" asked Gabe, not one to flee from reality. "We all heard drums. We all saw lights. There was a door in that wall. Someone is back there. Maybe a mean someone." Annika, in near hysterics, sobbed, "I don't think we took a wrong turn, Charlie. We walked in along the river and we ran out along the river. This is crazy. This wall just appeared here. We are trapped." She was still sitting on the ground, and she had the overwhelming feeling that she simply could not get back up again. "Walls don't just appear, Annika," said Charlie calmly. "There must have been a fork in the river that we didn't notice." "That's impossible," she sobbed. "It was on our left side when we turned back. We would have had to walk through it if it forked, or turn to the left. We turned to the right back there." Annika was pretty good with directions. At this point, the hopelessness of the situation hit Gabe, but he didn't cry. He stooped down, picked up a rock, and threw it hard against the cave wall. "Stupid cave!" he yelled. "I hate that stupid music." He threw another rock up towards the strings and hit them and made a funny "woo" sound. "Well, this wall didn't just appear," Charlie repeated. "Let's all slowly retrace our steps and see what happens." "No," said Annika, excuse me, who still did not want to stand up. "We should stay together," answered Charlie calmly. He went over and knelt down beside her. We have to stay together. What if we are in a different tunnel now? What if there are 10 tunnels and we all get separated? We only have one flashlight. We need to stay together and we need to keep going. Come on, Buspani, Gabe said softly to his sister. We'll make it out. And when we walk back through the field, you can get more flowers, he added, patting her. But I'm thirsty, said Annika. I just realized that I am too, said Charlie. Well, we have the stream. Gabe, shine the light for me while I get us some water. How are you going to do that, Charlie? Asked Gabe in a cheerful voice. He was confident that Charlie had something in his pockets that would amaze and fulfill their need. I have this Ziploc bag, he answered simply, pulling a folded-up bag out of his left cargo pocket. Why do you have a Ziploc bag? Asked Annika, who was feeling a little better after she had sat for a minute and let Charlie's logic calm her. I brought it for collecting pollywogs in the pond, he answered to her. It will hold water, though. I can bring you a drink. I was collecting pollywogs too, said Gabe shyly, until we saw that snake. Come on, shine the light for me, Gabe, Charlie repeated. Annika handed Gabriel the flashlight. He and Charlie went over to the water's edge. Gabe shined the light. The water looked clear and clean. Charlie knelt down and carefully scooped water off the top into his baggie. Then he tasted it. Oh, he sighed after taking a small sip and then a big gulp of it. It's delicious. It tasted perfectly clean. He took another long, full drink. We can all drink as much as we want. Annika pulled herself slowly up and came over to where the boys were standing by the water's edge. Charlie handed the bag to her, but she gave it to Gabe first. He took several large gulps and then had to take many deep breaths of air before taking several gulps again. I like apple juice better, he announced when he was finished. Annika was already taking her drinks from the bag. She spilled a little on her shirt. This is delicious, she breathed in when she had finished drinking. You should be thankful that we have water at all, Gabe, she addressed her brother scornfully as she handed the bag back to Charlie. He took one last drink and then emptied the rest back into the river. He carefully folded the bag back up and put it back in his pocket. What else do you have in your pockets, Charlie? Asked Gabe, who was shining the flashlight on Charlie now, watching him with interest. Well, I have a magnifying glass, some string, a rock that I found by the stream that I want to polish. I have a compass, a whistle for emergencies, my knife, of course, and a pencil. He listed all of this proudly. You have a compass? Asked Annika. I always carry it, just in case I get confused in the forest. My dad taught me how to read it. Why don't you use it to get us out of here? I guess I can try, answered Charlie in a real chirp. I didn't realize until just now that we were going to need help getting out of here, he continued, feeling a need to defend himself. He procured the compass from within his trousers, and Gabe held the flashlight over it. Charlie held it out so they could all see it, and they leaned their heads over it. A compass is like a tiny clock. Instead of having numbers to tell you what time it is, it has letters on it. North, south, east, west. These letters stand for north, south, east, and west. NSEW. The compass has a little arrow on it, like a clock, that floats in water. The arrow is on a magnet that turns so that it always points north. If you align the arrow with the N by turning the compass, you can tell which direction you are facing. If you know which direction your house is in, you can usually get home by checking the compass again and again on your way to make sure you are still headed the right way. This can be helpful in the woods especially, when there are so many trees that you can't find the right direction. Luckily for the children, Charlie had been using a compass for a couple of years. Unfortunately, the needle on the compass would not stop moving. It would point to their left, then spin back to their right. Then it would point straight ahead. Then it would spin in a circle. "Darn it," Charlie said, again in a somewhat deeper voice of disappointment. "Isn't it working, Charlie?" asked Annika, who didn't understand compasses very well. Aunt Persephone had a compass in one of her drawers, and Annika had taken it out and played with it on occasion. Aunt Persephone was a lady who enjoyed fun, and she would let Annika and Gabe make elaborate forts out of her four-poster bed. She would even help them by bringing in the cushions from the couch. Once, when they were being Indian braves, she had even served them lunch in their teepee. It was during such adventures that Annika usually played with a compass and used it to take readings on things. She liked to take readings and record the results of her readings on some old ledger papers of Aunt Persephone's. Gabe felt that taking readings was not something the Indian braves did, and he shot her with a pretend arrow. His sister had exploded then, and that particularly vivid game had come to an end. In other words, Annika had never learned how to really use a compass, and until this moment, she would have called someone who carried a compass around in his pants pocket silly. "No, Annika, it isn't working. The arrow won't point north. You see, it just keeps moving. If it won't show us where north is, we have no idea about any direction. This is very odd. I read in Caves Quarterly that compasses should work in caves. There must be some magnetic pole in here that is confusing my arrow. It must be below us or above us to cause this," he concluded at length. "What will we do now?" asked Gabe, doing a little jump hop as he said it. He was getting restless and wanted to see the sunshine again and maybe find another toad. "We retrace our steps," Charlie responded. Without further discussion, he was also feeling restless. He took the flashlight from Gabe and turned and started walking in the other direction. Of course, Annika and Gabe followed him. The children walked in silence. Charlie would never admit it, but his feet were starting to hurt. The soles of his shoes were flexible, but they were thin, and the rocks on the cave floor were poking him without mercy. He wished for a good, sturdy pair of boots like Gabe had on. Gabe's stomach was growling. He knew that his aunt had made his favorite beef stroganoff for dinner, and the thought of those noodles, that creamy sauce, and big chunks of beef made him feel grumpy because he was so far away from them. Annika was feeling dirty. She didn't like that feeling. Her pants felt dusty, and her arms felt dusty, and her hair felt dusty. She was starting to feel a little bit itchy on her head. She almost wanted to jump in the water to clean herself off. The sound of the strings overhead vibrating and humming was starting to unnerve them all a little bit, and they would have been grateful to have just silence instead. After they had walked slowly forward a long way in the darkness, they saw something with a flashlight at last, a wall in front of them. "Is that the same wall the lights were behind before?" whispered Gabe. "I don't know," answered Charlie. "It must be. We just walked straight. The stream to our right. There were no turns." He mumbled this last part. It made his heart feel faint. No turns. It seemed to mean that a wall had indeed appeared to block their path. Panic was filling up the inside of him. Is this what the snake had meant when he had said they would die? Charlie knew he was not ready for death. He resolved to fight for his life until the bitter end. "Here's the door," said Annika quietly, standing beside it. "I guess we can try to open it." "No," said Gabe firmly. "I don't wanna. I want to go home now. I'm hungry. Aunt Persephone is waiting for us." There must be an explanation. There must be a way out, Charlie mused, pacing back and forth, still feeling panicked. Well, I think we have two options. The first option is to open the door. No to that, said Gabe stubbornly. What is the second option, Charlie? Annika pleaded, ignoring her brother. To get in the stream and try to go under the wall, under the other wall that way. End of chapter 6. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.